So let's open PetData example. Let's clone it. And last time I updated it was today, but I didn't change codes like libraries. You will see which part is different. Okay. So let's clone PetData. That example exists for sake of using code, using scrollable list. Unit term example, yes, will be similar to that. Yes.
Can you post the videos of last week?
I will, yes, I will do it. Yeah. So, example for today it is these three. These two are from Google, and they actually made labs about it. And labs are partially explaining it. Labs from Google, it's mostly copy-paste. It's not very deep, but they provide some theory. So if you want to actually play with the code according to Google explanations, they are labs actually. I just picked final of it. This is not from Google, but it is somewhat similar to exercise 3.1 because 3.1 is displaying some data using list, but I added view model there because that didn't have view model. So let's clone it. PetData. Code, copy. Here it is. Get from version control. This is the area where I want to clone. Command V. Okay. PetData Android. And clone. Trust project. There are several branches. I will start with simplest because it is actually simplest. And after this, we'll briefly talk about, you see, it is complaining about all the libraries, and this can break things. So this is why I don't press it right now. Okay. So let's see. Let's switch code to remote branch, simplest, checkout. Checkout. Okay. Now it is simplest branch. For obvious reason, this wants to update. IDE and project settings. I don't know what it is. Oh, new Android Studio. So let's update it, like during break and see, okay? It's new one. Okay, so just came up. Yesterday didn't, it wasn't here. All right, so let's do it. Browse this, and remember that in all examples that I provided so far, it was file with version numbers. This is how it was before this summer, like up to end of April. It was only two files without file with version numbers. One, it is global, okay, and for entire project. And this, it is for app module. A program can have more than one module. Module, it is compilation unit. For larger programs, it makes sense. For smaller programs, it is just adds extra complexity. There's no point. And you see version number is in the file itself. And also, if I click on this for app, version numbers are implementation, name of the library, and version number is directly inside of implementation calls and test calls. Okay. So this is how it was up to April of this year. I touched this in December, and in December it was current. Now it's not, obviously. Okay. Also, I changed this to 17. Oops. What did I do? I did undo. Okay. So I changed this to 17 because for some reason it didn't compile. How did I know? I tried to compile, and at the bottom it displays that it requires Java 17. Some library at that time required Java 17, so I had to change it. It is not necessarily the case now. It really depends on how they compile a specific library. And it may happen that it needs to change. It needs to be changed. Also, you see compose options, Kotlin compiler, and this is a Kotlin compiler version. Compose compiler version. This part is no longer this way, and it was necessary when we used Kotlin before 2.0, and now this is 1.8. Okay. So this will be different from new examples. A Google example also comes with this, as you see it here, because they didn't update. It's about 1-year-old code. So when you copy-paste stuff, be careful about these issues. The rest is just similar, so it's no big deal. In the code, it is only library files are different. So let's run this program and see what it does. Okay. So it's simplest, while run button doesn't work. Interesting. Okay. I need to synchronize project. Sync now. Okay. We will deal with this update. Okay. Now I can run it. Okay, and here it is. So where it is different from previous programs. In PROG20082, I had images, right? That images are lived in drawable. In this case, drawable is empty. When you open an example from Google for pets, not for pets, for dogs, it is example for themes. They also have images in drawable. I don't know why, they just had it there. I put it in assets. Assets folder doesn't exist by default. You need to right-click on it and find menus. In the menus, there is option to create folder assets somewhere. If we look carefully, we will find it. It is somewhere. Okay. It's something like create assets folder. Okay. What is for? In this particular technique, it is to put some files that for some reason you don't want to store on web or in other places of your code. Why did they put it into assets here? The reason is that I use library that is capable of displaying image directly from web, and the same library can display image from assets. And it is exactly the same API, just address is different. So the reason why I put it in assets, it is to make the program such a way that it can pick images from a server. Okay. So there is a version of the code, it says use it server. And in that version, our program is picking this data and these images from a server. So in order to have a code that is very similar, using the same library for displaying images, I decided that, okay, in simplest version, I will just put it in assets. So that was my logic to put it in assets. Okay. Because there is a version that picks data and images from server. We can also put data files in assets if we really want it for some reason. So that was my rationale. For images in assets. Which library it is? So let's find it. I forgot the name of it. Coin. It's called coin. Here it is. Where it is? Coin. Do you see it? Oh, sorry, coil, not coin. A coil. This one. Coil compose. And where is the code for that? It is so let's find it. PetData main activity. Main activity has scaffold. Scaffold is called app root screen. In app root screen, I call pet list screen. In pet list screen, I have when loaded list body. It has to be list body. So in the list body, this is how it's called. So you see file, Android asset, images, and name of the file. So if it is HTTP / and location on web, it will work. So this can be web address. So this was the reason why I used coil library. Also, this library, when it picks images from web, it will store local copies the way how browser does. So images will be available locally, so it will not create additional network calls and create traffic. So we will keep using this library. It's in future examples. Okay, so let's start. I will start explaining it. Probably the best way to start it is to see state, then view model, and GUI that is using view model. So where data is coming from? Data is fake. It's not coming from web in this case. So I have in the data folder, local, I created fake PetData file. So as you see, it is just a list of pet objects, and I call pet constructor, name, pet kind, age, name of the image. Okay. So a list of and this stuff. Okay. And next, remember data layer consists of repositories and data sources. So I'm trying to model it, but this is doesn't have repositories yet, because I tried to create simplest version in this moment. But I'm reaching that direction. So for now, it is just array. So what is inside of my state? In the state, as you see, there is not much of the state besides this data, right? So in my state, I have data class. So I declare this sealed interface, and I start with already loaded. Because I try to model situation when data could be not loaded yet, like loading state, then could be error of loading, some broken icon on the screen, and finally loaded if it's actually loaded. Okay. So it is imitation of the future, a situation when data is coming from web and we can have some state when it is about to load, or some error when it cannot connect to web. So what Google does about it? They declare interface and several states, loading, loaded, and error. And loaded obviously contains data. In this case, it is a list of pets. Okay? So what is inside of my view model? I declared mutable state, and this is just state. It is not state flow. It is just state, right? And I initialized this with a calling constructor loaded, and this part is just array, global objects. So I call constructor of a loaded and provide this array as a parameter of it. So this is my state. Data object that contains array of data. So as you see, there is no delay of retrieving the data. Data is assigned. So this is for simplicity. Okay. This variable is referring to the same data, and it is public. This is private, because this is mutable. Questions? No. So this is view model. How this view model is given to the program. So let's see. In app root screen goes into, call it from main activity. So main activity app root screen, which is not great because this technically should be inside of app root screen, not vice versa. I realize this now. Okay. Because 1 year ago, Android Studio generated code slightly different, and this was edited after the fact, according to some other examples. But now it's actually looks like it's better if this goes inside of the root screen. So this probably better to change later. It's better to change. But anyway, app root screen. In app root screen, I call pet list screen because potentially I may have more than one page. Why potentially I may have more than one page? It could be the program when I click on item and it will show more information about the given pet. Right? So in this case, it would be list and details interface. When I have list and details, I have more than one screen. So this program is designed for simplicity, so there is no second screen. But potentially it could be navigation system declared here. Right? So let's continue. Pet list screen. In pet list screen, here it is default parameter. I'm calling view model. So I got my view model. This is state, not state flow, so I don't have to convert state flow to state. So I just pick state. So here it is. This is a state. And this is a value from the state. Mm-hmm. And what this value, it contains pet list. Right? So setup of scroll behavior for the scaffold. Why do I have scaffold inside of another scaffold? Is this nuts? Okay, let's check. No, it's not scaffold. This is surface. Sorry. Okay. So where was I was here, pet list screen. Here it is. A scaffold that contains top bar. Okay. This top bar, which are also this one, and this area, and I have only one when, but potentially it could be loaded, loading, and error. So this when UI state is created for future when we can have more than one state. Okay. And I have a list body. In the loaded, I display list body. So it's not list, it is just my own function that displays the stuff. So I give list of pets to it and modifier with inner padding. I already explained why inner padding, because potentially we can have all up with the stuff provided by scaffold and things in the middle. So piece in the middle, it is list body that gets the list of pet objects. So let's see this list body. In a list body. This is list of pet objects and modifier to change appearance. Here it is. This is how lazy column works. Okay. You call lazy column padding. There are two items for vertical and for horizontal. Okay, obviously this is vertical, this is horizontal. And something that is iteratable. In this case, it is list. And this is item of this list. And in the iteration, I call pet list item, given the pet. So pet list item, it is item of the list, which is card inside. So this is a card. Elevation for DP, it is to create shadow of it, around it. Modifier, padding. This 8 DP, it is actually this. It is inside. And I pick all available widths up to this padding. Then inside of the card, I have a row, and I have an image in the row, and I have a column. And in the column, I have a what it is? I have another row. This is row that contains pet kind starting with capital. So it is storing cat as not capitalized, now it is capitalized. So it is pet and pet kind field. It's just cat, dog, canary, as you see. And second, it has a name, it is this. And another text field below. And this is interesting, you see plurals. We didn't discuss plurals before. Plurals, it's language-dependent template that is also dependent on the number of items in it. This template is extremely flexible because some languages have different forms for one, two, many. It really depends on the language. In English, it is 0 is plural, right? 0 items. In another language, it doesn't have to be plural. It really depends on the language. Okay. So in this case, we have a template and how it is displayed. So this has ID. Why do we have two? First, it is to select the form of the template, and others to fill the template with the data. Template may have several space holders in it. For example, if it has 2 space holders, it would be 1 variable to select template and 2 other variables to fill space holders. In this case, it's 1 space holder %, this digit. So this is to select template. This is to fill data inside of template. So let's open that template in the string and see. It is the first time when we see plurals. This is why I'm explaining. So in the string, so let's open that. Resources value string. This is plurals. For one, we use year old. For anything else, we use years old. Right? For 0 goes as 0 years old, not 0 year old. Okay. So this is typically how it is in English. Either one or anything else. But other languages could be fancy. So for this reason, plural format is more complicated than just one or other. There are more options to fit most languages, most language rules for it. Questions about this? Okay. So you see, hamster is 1 year old because it picked this template. But rabbit is 2 years old because it picked this template, other. Okay. Questions? Yes?
So plurals are just strings that have like a variable that is dependent? Is that?
Say again?
So plurals are just like string resources that have dependent variables?
Yeah, it really depends on the variable. This part, a string resource may contain more than one variable, but only one of them is used to pick string resource.
So if you're like iterating through a list, you probably want to have a plural.
No. I mean, it could be another digit here for some reason. In this case, it's plural because in this case, it makes sense only for one digit. How many years old? 2 years, 3 months, some kind of thing. 2 years and 2 months. So in this case, it would be template with 2 space holders, right? But Android is able to select template only by one of these variables. So it's imitation. If it doesn't fit, just use two plurals for it. And when we use plural, we provide the variable twice, because one it is to select template, and second is actually to fill the data. So this is how this stuff is done. Questions about this part? No? And let's have a break. And after break, we will look at basic architecture quickly, just as general overview, just to have a bigger picture. And after this, go into Google examples. Okay. So let's relax, let's break. Okay, stop. Here it is. So I switch it to basic architecture. In the basic architecture, in data layer, I have a get all pets function that give list of pets. This function is also marked suspend. At the previous lesson, we chatted about suspend functions. Those functions are marked suspend because potentially long. They can be stopped by framework and restarted later. So it's also information to compiler, so it will enforce a rule of calling suspend functions as a separate task, not into main thread. Separate stage, it's separate task in coroutine context. I mean, as a coroutine. Coroutine, it is finer division of tasks after threads. So processes can be divided into threads, and threads in Kotlin can be also divided into coroutines further. So where does it take the data? I have implementation of this interface that is just picking data from the same array. But I'm executing this suspend function with context dispatchers IO. And this is also imitation. What is dispatchers IO? There are optimizations how we can execute tasks, coroutine tasks. Depending on what kind of tasks, we can use different dispatchers to execute them that optimize it for specific tasks. There is a default dispatchers, and this is optimized for long calculations. Dispatcher's IO, based on the name, is optimized for input-output. And dispatchers.main, it's a GUI. GUI tasks. It could be more than one GUI tasks. This is, again, it's imitation of the tasks that can potentially take time. For example, network call and to get the data. Next, let's see what kind of state we have in the program. In this case, we have 3 states. Data state, loaded state that contains data. Loading, it's just object as a flag that here something is going on, we're about to load data. And when this state happens, you saw reflection of the screen, message loading data. And arrow, yeah, another flag, like arrow happened. We can store actual message if arrow happens, but in this case, it never happened, so I didn't store message. So in view model, now program starts with loading state. And in init, which is part of constructor, I'm calling load pet list. A load pet list has fake delay, and I call get all pets afterwards. And this is how to handle exception if it happens, for example, a no network connection. So if arrow happens, I'm changing state to arrow, just assigning state to value of UI state. Okay. Otherwise, I'm assigning content of the container to loaded state with the data. So now we have two options, actually 3. Loading, loaded, and arrow. Okay. This is what you saw, but we didn't see arrow because it didn't happen. This is not end of the story, because repository has dependencies on network connection libraries, network connection objects. So we cannot create the repository by just calling constructor here, like we had for service. So repository is provided as parameter to view model. We did have this issue before, and that was discussed during stack data example. I had stack data example where our repository was depending on local database variables, local database connection objects, connection objects. So in this case, potentially it is dependent on network connection objects. How did I solve this issue? Before, I used manual dependency injection. So in order to do it, I created, what is called, I forgot. I created view model factory, and view model factory was provided as a parameter to view model. What is view model factory? A view model factory is, by definition, it's an object that is creating other objects. So if we provide such objects to view model function call, this function will use factory if view model doesn't exist, so it will create it. Otherwise, it will pick existing one. So that was the trick how to deal with it. This program is not using factory directly. The reason is that this program is using framework called HILT. It is dependency injection framework recommended by Google. It's not only one dependency injection framework, it's just the one that is coming from Google and recommended by it. How it works? When we use the HILT dependency injection framework, we don't have to create factories, and factories are generated automatically. But we need to provide instructions how to create objects. And one thing, remember that when I explained manual dependency injection, I created some data holder class inside of application. I call it container, application container or data container, right? In this case, when we use HILT dependency injection framework, this kind of generic code can be generated automatically. But we need to create application class ourselves, extended. We need to declare this the same way inside of UModel. No, inside of manifest. It is here, you see PetData application. We also, we have to here declare inside of manifest. We also have to mark every activity of fragment that is using dependency injection with annotation related to HILT. It's like this. You see Android entry point. So this is essential, otherwise you cannot use dependency injection in UModel because UModel is related to activity. And next, when you create objects that should be created automatically by dependency injection system, you have essentially two choices. One of the choices is use inject in the constructor, and it doesn't have to inject anything, but you have to write keyword inject in the constructor. For example, here you see inject, but constructor is empty. This keyword inject makes object itself injectable. And it's also an instruction to the system, call the constructor to create this object. So writing inject in front of constructor makes repository injectable. But as you see, this is, it is implementation of PetData repository. So HILT requires also linking implementation of the object that's supposed to be injected into a name that is supposed of the injection. Because my view model expects PetData repository, and this is interface, I had to create additional step, which is module, repository module, this one. That is making relation between what actual object to be injected and interface mentioned as a parameter of potential injection. So this is a bind, how bind works. There are more rules, it is just one of them. A module means instruction for dependency injection system. And this means global of the, it means scope of the objects to be injected. In this case, it means the global. Install in a singleton component class means objects are global. So it is the first exposure to dependency injection system, and we will talk about this more in the future. So at the previous lesson, we talked about manual dependency injection. This is dependency injection with HILT. There is a definitely learning curve how to play with it, but it's not complicated. You will learn it quickly. It's no big deal. Unfortunately, this is not explained in the course from Google. They just tell in architecture guide, use HILT, and pretty much it. They have HILT examples, but not inside of the course. Also, definitely, when we use HILT, we need to edit libraries. This is Gradle files. You see this in the including HILT framework, this one. And also app is including capped plugin, Kotlin annotation processor, this one, which is required by Hilt. And there are Hilt libraries here also as well. You see Hilt Android and another Hilt Android compiler. So both are necessary. And this is capped. This is library, and this is plugin itself mentioned at the top. So that was quick overview of using Hilt, and definitely this is out-of-date approach in terms of libraries. Current Android Studio is using different notation how to mention libraries. You saw it in other examples. Okay, questions? So it is just overview of that is coming.